Before I start sharing these stories with you, I'd like to ask if you could please subscribe to the channel. That would mean a lot to me. Thank you, and now let's begin. The cabin in the woods was supposed to be my sanctuary, a place to escape the noise and chaos of the city. Nestled deep within the forest, it offered the peace and solitude I craved. I'd spend my days sketching, hiking, and losing myself in the natural beauty that surrounded me. But that tranquility was shattered the night I found the first sign that I wasn't alone. My name's Alex, and I'm a 23-year-old writer who sought refuge in this remote cabin to find inspiration. It was perfect. No neighbors for miles, just the whispering trees and the occasional rustle of wildlife. But one evening, as I returned from a hike, I noticed something strange. My cabin door was slightly ajar. I stood frozen on the porch, my pulse quickening. Inside, everything seemed untouched, yet the air felt different, charged with an unsettling presence. I tried to convince myself it was nothing, perhaps an animal or a gust of wind. But that night, as I lay in bed, the unease settled into my bones. I woke to a noise outside, a soft crunch of leaves underfoot. Peering through the window, I saw a shadowy figure standing at the edge of the trees watching. My heart pounded as I reached for the flashlight, but by the time I switched it on, he was gone. The next morning, I found a note pinned to the front door. It read, "I'm here." The words were scrawled in red ink, sending chills down my spine. I hiked to the nearest town and reported it to the local sheriff, but he dismissed it as a prank, assuring me there was nothing to worry about. But I knew better. Each day brought a new terror. Footsteps around the cabin at night, the sound of someone or something scraping against the walls. Sleep eluded me as I lay awake, every noise amplified in the silence of the forest. One night I woke to the sound of my window sliding open. Grabbing the hatchet I kept nearby, I crept toward the noise. My hands trembled as I swung, the blade connecting with the windowsill as a shadowy figure slipped away into the darkness. Fear tightened its grip on me. I barricaded the windows and doors, but it did little to ease my mind. The notes continued, each one more menacing than the last. "I see you. Soon. You can't hide." I found a knife in the kitchen, its blade providing a small comfort as I carried it with me, always within reach. The final straw came one morning when I found a mutilated rabbit on my doorstep, a gruesome warning. It was clear he was toying with me, pushing me closer to the edge. Desperation took hold as I realized I couldn't run, couldn't hide from the torment that surrounded me. My friends tried to reassure me over the phone, their voices distant and detached. They couldn't understand the fear that had become my constant companion. The sheriff, too, remained dismissive, suggesting I leave the cabin for a while. But I was determined to stay, to face whatever lurked in the shadows. One night as I sat by the fireplace, I heard a noise outside the door. My heart raced as I peered through the peephole and saw him, a hooded figure standing on the porch just beyond the threshold. I backed away, my mind racing. He didn't try to enter, but left another note. "I'm inside your head, and I'll always be there." I realized then that this was his game. He wanted to break me, to drive me to the brink of insanity, and he was succeeding. Each day became a blur of anxiety and paranoia. The forest that once felt like a refuge, now a suffocating trap. I don't know how this will end, or if I'll ever be free of him. Every day I feel the walls closing in, the fear tightening its grip. I can only hope that one day I'll find a way to escape. Until then, I live in constant fear, always looking over my shoulder, always waiting for the next move in this deadly game.
It was supposed to be just another late night at the office, a common occurrence for someone in my position. As the CFO of a bustling tech company, I was no stranger to burning the midnight oil. The executive office building was usually empty by 8 p.m., leaving only the hum of the HVAC system and the occasional flicker of the fluorescent lights. I had always found the solitude comforting, until the night that changed everything. My name's Chris, a 34-year-old executive who thrives on deadlines and high-stakes decisions. That particular night, I had stayed late to finish some urgent financial reports. The office was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that makes you acutely aware of every little sound. It started with a phone call, the office phone ringing after hours, a rare and unsettling occurrence. I picked it up, but there was only silence on the other end. Dismissing it as a prank, I went back to work. It was around 11 p.m. when I received the first email. The subject line read, "I see you," and the body was blank. My heart skipped a beat as I glanced around the empty office. I called Janet, my secretary, to see if she was still in the building, but her phone went straight to voicemail. Unease settled in as I tried to focus on the report in front of me. The next morning, I found a note on my desk. It read, "You're not alone," written in red ink. My pulse quickened as I showed the note to Janet, who had arrived early. She looked concerned but tried to reassure me that it was probably a harmless joke by someone in the office. I wanted to believe her, but the dread lingered. The incidents escalated. Late at night, I would hear footsteps echoing in the hallways, the sound of someone or something moving just out of sight. One evening, as I was heading to the break room for a cup of coffee, I saw a shadowy figure standing at the end of the corridor. He was watching me, his face obscured by darkness. I turned to run, but when I looked back, he was gone. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. I lay awake, every creak and rustle amplifying my fear. One night, I woke to the sound of my office door creaking open. Heart pounding, I grabbed the paperweight from my desk and crept toward the noise. My hands shook as I peered through the door, but the office was empty. The emails continued, each one more menacing than the last. "I'm close. Soon. You can't hide." The fear was suffocating, a constant presence that gnawed at my sanity. I started carrying a small pocket knife, its cold metal a flimsy reassurance against the unknown threat. Then came the night I found Janet's desk vandalized, her belongings scattered and a note pinned to her chair. "I'm watching." It was a clear message. Neither of us was safe. Desperation took hold as I realized I couldn't escape the torment that surrounded me. The office that once felt like a refuge now felt like a trap with no way out. Janet tried to console me, but her own fear was evident. The office staff remained dismissive, suggesting we both take some time off. But I was determined to face whatever lurked in the shadows. One evening, as I sat by the office window, I heard a noise outside my door. My heart raced as I peered through the glass and saw him, a hooded figure standing there, just beyond the threshold. I backed away, my mind racing with fear and confusion. He didn't try to enter, but left another note. "I'm inside your head, and I'll always be there." I realized then that this was his game. He wanted to break me, to drive me to the brink of insanity. And he was succeeding. Each day became a blur of anxiety and paranoia. The office that once felt like a sanctuary, now a suffocating prison. I don't know how this will end, or if I'll ever be free of him. Every day, I feel the walls closing in, the fear tightening its grip. I can only hope that one day, I'll find a way to escape. Until then, I live in constant fear, always looking over my shoulder, always waiting for the next move in this deadly game.
It all started with those subtle, almost imperceptible signs that something wasn't right. I could feel it, an unease that wrapped itself around my every thought and action. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was just the stress of work or the isolation of living alone. But as the days turned into weeks, it became impossible to ignore. My name's Alex, and I'm a 25-year-old graphic designer living in a small apartment downtown. I've always enjoyed my solitary life, the freedom to create and work on my own terms. But that freedom turned into a prison when I noticed the first sign, my front door, slightly ajar, as if someone had been inside. I hesitated at the threshold, my pulse quickening. Stepping inside, I found nothing out of place, yet the air felt heavy, oppressive. For days, I tried to carry on as usual. I went to work, met friends, and kept myself busy. But the nagging feeling of being watched never left me. Every shadow seemed darker, every noise louder. One evening, as I walked home, I saw him. a shadowy figure standing under a street lamp, his face obscured by a hood. I quickened my pace, the fear gnawing at my insides. The first note arrived the next day. It was slipped under my door, a single word scrawled in red ink. Soon. I tried to dismiss it as a prank, but deep down, I knew it was a warning. I reported it to the police, but they were dismissive, suggesting it was a harmless joke. But the notes kept coming, each one more menacing than the last. Sleep became a distant memory. I lay awake at night, every creak and rustle sending my heart racing. One night I woke to the sound of my window sliding open. Grabbing the baseball bat I kept by my bed, I crept toward the noise. My hands trembled as I swung the bat, connecting with something, someone. He let out a grunt and disappeared into the night. I was left standing there, bat in hand, drenched in sweat and fear. Days turned into a blur of anxiety and paranoia. I barricaded myself in, checking and rechecking every lock and window. Despite my precautions, I still felt his presence, a constant, oppressive shadow. My friends noticed the change in me, the way I jumped at every sound, the dark circles under my eyes. They tried to reassure me, but their words felt hollow. Then came the night I found my neighbor's cat, mutilated and left on my doorstep. It was a gruesome message, clear as day. He was toying with me, pushing me closer to the edge. I knew I had to do something. I started carrying a knife with me, its reassuring weight in my pocket a small comfort. My life became a series of calculated movements, always looking over my shoulder, always expecting him to appear. The police were no help. They continued to dismiss my fears, suggesting I was imagining things. But I knew the truth. He was real, and he was coming for me. The notes became more frequent, more threatening. Soon turned into, "I'm close," and "You can't hide." One night, I heard a noise outside my apartment door. I peered through the peephole and saw him, a shadowy figure standing there, just beyond the threshold. My heart pounded in my chest as I backed away, my mind racing. I grabbed the knife and waited, every muscle tense, every sense heightened. He didn't try to enter. Instead, he left another note, this one more chilling than the others. "I'm inside your head," it read, "and I'll always be there." I realized then that this was his game. He wanted to break me, to drive me to the brink of insanity, and he was succeeding. I don't know how this will end, or if I'll ever be free of him. Every day, I feel the walls closing in, the fear tightening its grip. I can only hope that one day I'll find a way to escape. Until then, I live in constant fear, always looking over my shoulder, always waiting for the next move in this deadly game.
My name's Sam, a 30-year-old marketing executive. I had been feeling burnt out from work, so I decided to treat myself to a stay at a charming old hotel by the lake. The hotel was elegant, with a grand lobby and a swimming pool on the main floor that shimmered under the soft lights. My room was on the 5th floor, offering a beautiful view of the surrounding forest. It seemed perfect until the first night. I had just returned from a late swim, the cool water a refreshing break from the summer heat. As I stepped out of the pool area, I noticed something strange. The elevator doors were open, but no one was inside. I shrugged it off, attributing it to a faulty sensor. But as I entered my room, the feeling of unease crept in. The air felt heavy, charged with an unsettling presence. The next morning, I found a note slipped under my door. It read, "Welcome to your nightmare," scrawled in red ink. My pulse quickened as I scanned the hallway, but it was empty. I reported it to the hotel manager, who assured me it was probably a harmless prank by some of the younger guests. I tried to believe him, but the knot in my stomach wouldn't go away. Each day brought a new terror. I would hear footsteps in the hallway late at night, the soft shuffle of someone or something just outside my door. One evening, as I was about to take another dip in the pool, I saw a shadowy figure standing at the far end of the lobby. He was watching me, his face obscured by a hood. I felt a chill run down my spine as I hurried back to my room, every step echoing in the empty corridor. Sleep became elusive. I would lie awake, every creak and rustle amplifying the fear that gripped me. One night, I woke to the sound of my room's window sliding open. Heart pounding, I grabbed the heavy lamp from the bedside table and crept toward the noise. My hands shook as I swung the lamp, but there was nothing there. The window was closed and the room was empty. The notes continued, each one more menacing than the last. I see you soon, you can't hide. The fear was suffocating, a constant presence that gnawed at my sanity. Then came the night I found a mutilated bird on my balcony, its lifeless eyes staring up at me. It was a clear message. I wasn't safe. Desperation took hold as I realized I couldn't escape the torment that surrounded me. The hotel that once felt like a refuge now felt like a trap with no way out. My friends tried to console me over the phone, but their voices felt distant and detached. They couldn't understand the terror that had become my constant companion. The hotel staff remained dismissive, suggesting I leave and find another place to stay. One evening, as I sat by the window, I heard a noise outside my door. My heart raced as I peered through the peephole and saw him, a hooded figure standing there, just beyond the threshold. I backed away, my mind racing with fear and confusion. He didn't try to enter but left another note. I'm inside your head, and I'll always be there.